So for those of you that know me, which isn't many of you too well, to be fair, I've still got lots of work to do on that. You know that I love talking, and I also love being spontaneous. So I'd said to Sophie a long time ago that I was not writing my speech, I was just going to go with it. But as was brought up in the service today, marriage is about compromise. So my first compromise is that I have comprehensive notes that were pre-approved by Boss Junior.
Were they? No.
So here we are.
No.
So to start, on behalf of my wife and I, it's amazing to have you all here. For some time in the last few months, we were questioning what this was going to look like, if it was going to look like anything. And so to have all of you here is amazing. And we wouldn't trade you for anyone else at this point in time. And we hope that April will happen, or in whatever way that we can sort something out, whatever COVID throws up at us. And also, as tradition, my job is to thank and toast the bridesmaids, who all looked gorgeous today. Not as much as the bride, to get that straight, but they did. And all of you have three different sections really of Sophie's life, and reflect all a part of how Sophie has come together. And you are a very important part of Sophie's life and of today. And thank you for all that you do and have done this week, and in preparation, and just in life, guiding Sophie through. And onto that, still on to the thank yous. Firstly, I'm going to thank all of our grandparents. We're incredibly lucky to have a good relationship with all of our grandparents on both sides, and I think that is very valuable. And you have all been very, very supportive in different ways. I'm not going to go into specifics and embarrass anyone here, but we do appreciate it more than you will ever know. It's just how supportive you've been, and we hope that continues, and we hope to pay respect in our relationship with you as well. Going down to the parents, we're also very lucky to have a complete set on both sides of very, very supportive and loving parents. And again, today wouldn't happen without them, in terms of we wouldn't be who we are. Well, we physically wouldn't be here, for one. But also, you have all shaped us in how we are today. And without that, we wouldn't be where we are. And all I can say is thank you, really, without going too much into it and gushing. I'm not one really for sentiment or emotions. And Sophie, all the way up until the ceremony today, was like, "Are you going to cry when you see me? Please cry when you see me." All the time. And I'm sad to say I didn't. And I even tried. I tried everything. I nearly put tweezers in my pocket to twist really hard. But no, I'm not someone who really does outward emotion. But I could not keep a smile off my face as you came down that aisle. And so there were no tears, but teeth. So that's a good replacement instead. There is someone else to thank briefly, which is, if you've seen the slideshow, which was Willow, my dog, who passed away. But she was there at our first date. She was the first person in my family to meet Sophie, with a loud bark and a sniff. That was followed later by the parents barking and sniffing.
I didn't sniff, Jeff. I didn't sniff.
She was also there at the moment I proposed, which the story we'll get onto later. But a special shout out to Eden for that. As Sophie had said, if you know Sophie, you know she can be instructive. She's a teacher in all ways of life.
That's a good way of putting it.
And so I had strict instructions for proposals. There had to be a photographer there. There had to be, the ring had to be 3 diamonds, which I was more than happily on board with, and glad she suggested it. And Eden was that photographer, and I had to be out in the countryside. So Eden, as at the time when I was running my company full time, was my assistant. She hid in a bush in camouflage, ready for the moment of photos.
For about 2 hours.
For about 2 hours, as we were slightly late. But yeah, thank you for that, Eden. And Willow was special to us in forming our bond, and in a way, dogs are a bit like baby steps towards parenting, and it showed that we work together as a team looking after this dog. And I hope in future for children to come in our lives. Special needs is something that has been mentioned a lot, and is special to both of us. And I know going forward that that's also going to play a big part in our lives as we continue on this journey. But now it's also customary of how we met. We met on an app called Salt, which is basically Christian Tinder, but without some of the worst bits of Tinder. And this was mentioned in the ceremony as well, I had it as a joke. I thought this is hilarious. Never took it seriously. Never messaged anyone. Just found it hilarious to sort of go on there and judge people, really, until I saw Sophie. And I've said this before. I'm not one for sentiment, and I'm not one that's ever been like, you just know. I never knew what that meant. When you find the one, you just know. What does that mean? But I just knew, and I can't tell you what that means now, even though I've been through it. But as soon as I saw Sophie's profile, I had to message her, and I did. And then we decided to meet up, go on a date to Bournemouth. And again, this was mentioned, but we've been talking. But the benefit with online is that you do get to speak a fair amount, so it wasn't as awkward as some first dates can be. In that we had been conversing quite a lot and knew each other maybe to a level more than just complete and total strangers. But there was something special in that. And as soon as you, at this point I didn't drive, so you'd come to my house to pick me up. We were heading out to Bournemouth, onto the beach, and as soon as you stepped in the door, I kissed you. Don't know why. And now she's the one that wants to kiss me all the time and I'm running away. Well, I suppose I set that precedent up, so it's my fault. I cannot explain it, and I'm normally not one who is lost for words, but for this I am. You are just the girl for me, and will always be. And then we had a very strange first date and second date, as it was within the space of 2 days back to back. We ended up going to one of my neighbours' parties because he'd had a ride-on lawnmower stolen, and then he got given a new one by some of our amazing neighbours. So you came to that, and then ended up back because at this point I also lived with my parents, and then you ended up back at my house eating a takeaway curry with my parents and our neighbours on the first date. It was very odd, but it seems odd, and it feels odd to say now, but it didn't feel odd at the time, which is really, really weird, but it just clicked. And then the next day you were having a barbecue, to where I met 2 of the bridesmaids for the first time. Actually, no, you weren't there, were you? No, I lied. Well, we'll scrap that on the video. And so you invited me up to that, and I really at that point knew what I was getting myself in for. As soon as I arrived, do you know how a lawnmower works? Can you cut my grass, please? So it's like, sure, okay, that's fine. I'm quite happy doing that, so off I did. Do you know how to cook a barbecue? Oh, I have one here, but it's not assembled. Can you assemble the barbecue, please? Sure, okay. And so there I was, second day of ever knowing you, and I was cooking a barbecue for your friends on the lawn I'd just mown. I should have known from then that she was very instructive. But I was more than happy to serve Sophie. As has been said, your heart and your kindness is your biggest and best factor. And so to help you in that journey and support you when you're doing that role, is you picked up from both your parents your love of hosting. You've picked up the best of both worlds in organising and hosting and standing and chatting. I'll let people guess which one is which of the parents there. We do that. But you sort of merged the two together. And again, we worked well as a team. Until you had slightly too much Malibu and couldn't take me to the train station. But we'll forgive and move on from that. And the other customary thing to talk about really is the proposal, which I spoke about briefly, but there was a slight problem. I'm fairly traditional, I think so are your family, and so I had wanted to get Jeff's approval. And I had this plan, very last minute, because the Goldings were coming down as you were going to France for the weekend, or the week, I can't remember in total, so we were going to meet up as 2 families for dinner, as this was sort of becoming a thing. This is only, I don't know, it was 3 months, wasn't it? 3 months practically to the day. Yeah. So things moved very quickly, and that's not normally like me at all, but as I keep saying, you defy my own brain and thoughts as to how I do things in life. Make me better and want to do those things. But I wanted to get approval, and I knew that Sophie was coming down to my house on Saturday. So I knew that on Friday, I didn't drive at this point, I was going to ask man behind the camera, Herbie, to drive me up to Hereford, to then, without Sophie knowing, ask for permission, as I had the ring at that point. I'd already scouted a position for Eden to take a photograph. Everything was there. Both of our parents were going to be there and then go out for dinner. They would turn into the celebration. However, that didn't happen. Because last year, as last summer as it was, there was very heavy winds. And Sophie was at New Wine, which is, for those who don't know, a Christian festival where you're camping. So tents and high winds don't really go together. And I remember texting Aaron, who's our photographer today. Also, special thank you to Aaron, actually. You've done a fantastic job. But Aaron was also at New Wine, and I was getting worried that Sophie was going to end up early at my house. And I text Aaron saying, what do you think's going to happen? And he said, just a light breeze, mate. We'll be fine.
It was at that point.
12 hours later, Sophie texts me, I'm coming to yours, New Wine has shut down. So suddenly I'm there thinking, well, what do I do? Am I going to phone Jeff and go, hello, it's Nathan, the person you've met once. By the way, I want to propose to your daughter. Okay, and then pretend I've gone into a tunnel and hang up. I was out of options because I'd created this scenario on the Sunday where everyone was going to be at the same place. I already instructed Eden, we'd scouted it. And so I thought that we would just go for it and I'll get retrospective permission. Because we had in jest already negotiated how many goats Sophie was worth, which was 2.
So,
That's biblical tradition, by the way. That wasn't just a random. That's not a thing for Herefordshires. But we had spoken about that in jest, and I think, as Jeff said in his speech, it was quite clear to most people who'd met us that something was happening, even to us, which is a surprise, but everything just happened. I don't think it was much of a surprise as we thought it was going to be for some people. But so I didn't ask permission, but I do know how that conversation would have gone. So I've spent some time with Jeff recently, and here's how it would have happened. I'm using a prop. If I'm standing, I'm me. If I'm sitting, I'm Jeff. So Jeff, I'd like to marry your daughter. Which one? Followed by and then I would go on to give this rousing speech about how I loved Sophie and how I was going to look after her, and in response would have been, yeah. Yeah. And then if there's a pause, he thinks he's got to laugh. Shh. So I thought, in my head, I'd planned out that conversation and we were going to be okay. Bet you wish you'd done your speech and unwelcomed me. But anyway, so I didn't get permission at the time, but the moment itself went off without a hitch. Sophie, as lovable as you are as a person, it means sometimes you don't know when I'm scheming something, which was a good thing, not a bad scheme, proposing. And we were sat on the sofa and I had the ring in my pocket, and you put your hand on my thigh and I nearly had a heart attack. But you didn't know anything, didn't notice anything, didn't notice that there was this big square in my pocket, nothing. And I said to you on that morning, said, it's your wedding day today. And you thought I was just doing as I do, horrendous humour and trying to wind you up. And I kept saying it to you all day and you didn't twig anything. And the funny thing was, see, I had to get Sophie out of the house because I had this romantic location. So perfect time, dog walk. However, this had to happen when the Goldings were already in my house, because I didn't want them to turn up and then we're already engaged. Oh, by the way, here's a ring. Needed to be in the house already. So Sophie asked, well, why don't we walk Willow before my parents arrive, then it's out of the way. And I said, well, I know your mum doesn't like big dogs, and they've had a long journey, so we'll just go get Willow outside and we'll sort it out then. Which is a bit odd. Didn't twig. You're like, okay. Took it at face value, trusted me, which is a big part of our relationship, and maybe unwise, but it's worked so far. And at this point, I was training Willow off the lead, and Sophie says to me, why aren't you letting Willow off the lead? Now, I knew if I let Willow off the lead, that she would smell Eden, because Eden had met the dog very many times, and she would then start barking and going crazy and running around Eden, which would spoil the whole surprise. So I had Willow tightly on my lead, hoping she still wouldn't bark. So, why is Willow not off the lead? Because I'm wearing a nice shirt and I don't want to run after her. Again, yeah, okay, that sounds like a reasonable plan. Okay, we'll go with that. And I started giving this sort of emotional talk about how much you mean to me and how much you've changed my life, which is true. You give me purpose. You say, that your significant other is your better half and your other half. And you really are that to me. You complete me and make me whole. As simple as that. And again, I'm not really one for sentiment, so she also doesn't twig that. She said, why are you talking like this? Don't know, just feel like it. And I've had a lot of knee problems, so the biggest thing I was worried about was getting back up. Getting down on one knee. But I managed to do that. The photos were taken. Sophie cried. I didn't. Went the same way today. And we were engaged. And then had to walk in the house, and we thought it was going to be this big moment of, hooray, we're engaged. We walk into both of our dads talking and talking. Sophie is going, hello. They're still talking. Sarah and Wendy have clocked it. They're aware. The mothers know. Fathers in their own world. Tea and coffee in there. Yeah. All going on. Until Sophie had to go, Dad! And there we were. And then, I'm not sure you know this, but I then went out very quickly with Jeff and said, look, I will take it back if you don't actually, I do want your blessing, this situation. And before I'd even stumbled and bowed down and said, I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. Your family has been so welcoming, and the extended family as well, not just parents. And I'm an only child, and now I have a brother and sister, which I don't really know how that works, because I've never had one. But I hope that you grow to not just see me as a brother-in-law or Soph's other half, that you can cherish me as a brother, whatever that looks like. AKA, if you're drunk and you need a lift home and Jeff's too grumpy to do it, I might do it. Put it that way. This relationship, I promise I'm wrapping up. I'm not going on for another half an hour.
A little bit longer, mate. I need more time.
He's still writing the speech at the back.
This relationship moved very quickly. And this past year, past being engaged, has been me really getting to know your family and being welcomed in as one of the family, rather than the other way around. And much is the same feel. Well, Rosanna, hello, I met you today in a photo. That that's sort of how things have happened, mainly because of lockdown as well. We haven't had the run up to our wedding that we would have liked. But I just want to say a few words shortly to hopefully put some people's mind at ease, because I know it wasn't easy to suddenly go, well, hold on a minute, she's engaged. Who the hell is that guy? and why is he think he's so funny and he's not? And all and so there have been bits of tension here and there, or bits of I don't we don't know this guy, so is this a good idea? Which I completely understand, because it's not a good idea. But she's trusting and loving, and I can only thank her for that, for giving me the opportunity to be your husband. But what that looks like to me is summarized in Ephesians 5:25. Which is, the husband's role is to love your wife as Christ loves the church. That doesn't mean that I have to, every day when you get home, put myself on a cross and try and come back after that. But there is the metaphor in that I will do anything for you. And Christ's love doesn't just mean dying on the cross. He gave us life. He gave us hope. And it's something my dad has always said to me. He said, and he knew as well straight away when it was Sophie that this was serious. He said, your job is to make her flourish. And that is my job. My job is not to not do any cleaning or things like that. I'm a good cook, but it's my job to do whatever you need me to do, to be whoever you need to be, to make you flourish and be the best person you can be. For though some of you, my ushers, have known me for a very long time, and I've never had an ambition in career, never really cared about money. I'm not that sort of person. But the one thing I've always said is that I want to be a father and I want to be a good dad. That's my ambition. So Sophie, as we go forward in life, it is my job to bring this family together, to start our journey, create our family, and with you as the shining light of them. That's what I view my role to be. And hopefully that's won some approval of people in the audience that may have still been questioning. Because you don't know me well, and I would love the chance to get to know some of you a bit better. We don't actually have any drinks, but toast. To the bridesmaids for everything you've done recently, and of course, to my wife.
Yeah.